What if the person you trusted the most was secretly writing your downfall, one sweet gesture at a time? Welcome to a place where love isn't always what it seems, and family secrets don't stay buried for long. Here, every innocent moment can turn into a chilling revelation. Every quiet fear can uncover dangerous lies, and every perfect marriage can hide a devastating betrayal. These are not just stories. These are gripping journeys of survival, revenge, and emotional truth. From a single sip that changes everything, to a child's instinct that exposes hidden manipulation, to shocking secrets that shatter lifelong trust overnight, each story will pull you deeper into a world where justice rises when hope feels lost. If you're ready to feel the tension, uncover the truth, and witness unforgettable twists that stay with you long after the story ends, you're exactly where you need to be. The glass was already sweating in small, nervous hands when the quiet request came, to taste it first. It seemed like nothing, just orange juice on a warm afternoon, sunlight stretching across the kitchen tiles like everything in life was simple and safe. But the way those eyes lingered, wide and uncertain, stirred something deeper than concern. One sip was enough. A strange bitterness clung to the back of the throat, metallic and wrong, like swallowing a warning too late. The smile across the table didn't falter. Calm, charming, familiar. The same smile that had once promised forever now felt like a mask slipping by inches. Questions were brushed aside. Laughter followed, a soft insistence that imagination was running wild. It had always been easy to believe, easy to trust. Years of carefully crafted tenderness had built a fortress around doubt, but the child's trembling fingers told another story. That night, the hospital lights hummed like they were holding secrets. The doctor studied the sample, then the face, then the report again. Silence stretched long enough to feel like punishment. Finally, the word landed with brutal clarity. Poison. Everything began to rearrange itself after that. Late meetings that never made sense. New life insurance papers tucked between grocery lists. The sudden impatience whenever questions got too close to truth. Affection that had slowly turned into calculation. Touch that felt measured instead of warm. Watching became easier than speaking. Listening revealed more than confronting ever could. Phone calls whispered in the garage. A second phone hidden behind old tax returns. A name saved under something harmless. A plan unfolding piece by piece, as if love had only been a rehearsal for betrayal. Fear burned first. Then came clarity. Evidence was gathered quietly, like gathering broken pieces of a life once believed to be real. Cameras captured what denial never could. Voices recorded confessions spoken in careless confidence. Every lie was allowed to grow stronger until it became impossible to contain. In the courtroom, charm meant nothing. Tears meant nothing. Truth sat heavier than performance. When the verdict was read, the man who had once controlled every heartbeat finally looked small, exposed not only as a stranger, but as someone who had mistaken silence for weakness. Outside, fresh air filled lungs that had forgotten how freedom felt. And the child who had trusted instincts more than promises was finally safe. Some poisons are meant to end lives. Others exist to reveal them. The first sign that something was wrong didn't come from arguments or distance. It came from silence. Small footsteps hesitating at the kitchen doorway. Tiny fingers gripping the edge of a cartoon cup like it held more than juice. A quiet voice asked if it could be checked first. Not tasted with excitement, not shared with laughter. Checked. That moment lingered long after the glass was set down. Everything about the marriage had always looked perfect from the outside. Weekend barbecues, matching smiles and family photos, affectionate touches that made people say how lucky life must be. Stability had been built like a carefully staged performance. Even doubt felt inappropriate in a life that appeared so whole. But children don't perform, they feel. And fear like that doesn't grow without reason. The sip was subtle, sweetness at first, then something bitter curling underneath, like truth hiding behind a compliment. When eyes lifted across the room, the familiar gaze met them, steady, warm, unreadable. The same gaze that had once been trusted more than instinct. Questions were met with reassurance. Laughter softened every suspicion. A gentle hand rested on a shoulder, like comfort was still genuine. Yet something had shifted forever. Once trust fractures, even kindness begins to sound rehearsed. Nights became longer. Listening replaced sleeping. The sound of whispered phone calls through thin walls. The glow of a screen lighting up a face that no longer seemed recognizable in the dark. New habits formed quietly. Locked drawers, deleted messages, sudden temper when curiosity lingered too long. Memories started rewriting themselves. Gifts that now felt like distractions. Apologies that sounded like strategies. Love that had been offered so perfectly it almost felt scripted. A realization grew heavier with each passing day. Perfection had never been real. It had been control. Fear transformed into resolve. Documents were copied in silence. Conversations recorded with shaking hands that eventually learned to steady. Truth doesn't explode all at once. It reveals itself in fragments until denial becomes impossible to maintain. The child stayed close, sensing storms adults pretended didn't exist. Small glances carried understanding deeper than words ever could. Protecting innocence became more important than protecting a marriage built on deception. When everything finally came into the light, charm lost its power. Excuses fell apart under evidence. The man who had once defined safety became the very reason it had been stolen. And in the end, twisted fate didn't destroy a life. It exposed the one who had been quietly destroying it all along. The day love turned poisonous didn't begin with shouting or broken glass. It began with a simple request spoken in a trembling whisper. A small hand held out a cup of juice, eyes searching for reassurance that couldn't yet be understood. Fear that young never announces itself loudly. It hides in pauses, in hesitation, in the way innocence suddenly learns to doubt. Everything about the marriage had always felt unshakable. Promises had been kept with precision. Affection had been given generously in front of others. The world saw devotion, stability, a partnership strong enough to survive anything. Believing it had been easy. Living inside that illusion had felt even easier. Until that first sip. Sweetness gave way to something bitter enough to make the heart stumble. Not spoiled, not accidental, intentional in a way that left no room for comfort. Looking across the table, that familiar smile appeared right on cue, calm, reassuring, almost practiced. The same expression that had once quieted every fear now sparked something darker. Questions were met with warmth. Doubts were dismissed with gentle laughter. A hand reached out like it always had, steady and convincing. But trust, once cracked, starts to bleed into every memory. Late nights at work suddenly seemed longer than necessary. New financial papers surfaced without explanation. Phone calls ended too quickly when footsteps approached. Reality didn't collapse all at once. It unraveled slowly, thread by thread. Watching became survival. Listening became strategy. Truth revealed itself in fragments, hidden messages, unfamiliar names, a second life unfolding just beyond reach. Love that had once felt like protection now looked like manipulation carefully perfected over time. Fear gave way to something sharper. Plans were made quietly, without confrontation or tears. Evidence gathered in silence carried more power than accusations ever could. Cameras captured moments meant to stay hidden. Recordings preserved words spoken in confidence. Each discovery cut deeper, but also strengthened resolve. Protecting the child became the only purpose that mattered. Innocence deserved more than a home filled with invisible danger. Pretending ended the moment safety was threatened. When justice finally arrived, it didn't come with dramatic vengeance. It came with undeniable proof, laid out under harsh courtroom lights. Charm faded, lies tangled themselves into knots that couldn't be undone. The man who had once defined love was exposed as someone capable of destroying it without hesitation. Survival meant walking away not just from a person, but from an entire illusion. Because sometimes the deadliest poison isn't in the glass, it's in the vows that were never real. Sweet gestures had always defined the marriage. Fresh flowers on random Tuesdays, morning coffee already waiting before the alarm rang, a hand resting at the small of the back during crowded gatherings, guiding with quiet certainty. To everyone watching, it looked like devotion. To the heart living inside it, it felt like safety. Until the day a child refused to drink juice. Tiny fingers clutched the glass as if it carried a secret too heavy to hold alone. Eyes filled with confusion instead of thirst. A hesitant request came softly, asking if it could be checked first. Not tasted together, not shared with laughter, just checked. The sweetness hit first, familiar, comforting. Then something darker crept in, bitter enough to leave a metallic echo on the tongue. Looking up revealed that same loving smile across the kitchen table, patient, steady, unreadable, the kind of smile that had once erased every doubt without effort. Concern was met with reassurance, questions softened by jokes, arms wrapped around shoulders in practiced comfort. It would have been easy to let the moment disappear like so many others. Years of silent manipulation had trained the mind to dismiss instinct in favor of appearances. But fear has a way of planting roots. Little details began to surface, things that had never seemed worth noticing before. Locked drawers in a house that once held no secrets, sudden financial decisions explained with vague confidence, phone screens turning dark the moment footsteps approached, affection that now felt timed rather than genuine. Memories twisted into unfamiliar shapes, the anniversary trip that had felt like an apology without a fight, the life insurance policy introduced like responsible planning. Even the nightly kisses began to feel like rehearsed scenes in a story written by someone else. Watching quietly became the only way forward. Evidence gathered itself in stolen moments, a conversation overheard through a cracked door, documents photographed with shaking hands, unfamiliar numbers saved under harmless names. Each discovery chipped away at the illusion of love until nothing remained but calculated betrayal. Protecting the child became more important than preserving the marriage. Innocence deserved truth, even when truth burned. When everything finally came to light, charm couldn't save him. Lies collapsed under the weight of proof. The man who once hid danger behind sweetness stood exposed before a world that had only ever seen his performance. And in the silence that followed the verdict, one truth remained undeniable. The most dangerous poison is the one served with a smile. If this story kept you on edge and made you question how well we truly know the people closest to us, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful revenge stories, emotional family dramas, and shocking relationship secrets. Your support helps bring more unforgettable stories of survival, betrayal, and justice to life. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next twist, because the next story might change everything. Until next time, trust carefully.